I've got a cybersecurity expert on the podcast. Let's begin.
This is Debt Free in 30. Here's your host, Doug Hoyes.
Welcome to the podcast. Who are you and what do you do?
Hey, I'm Boivin. I'm a technical platform specialist at Flare. So what I do is that I help sellers to contact with customers, having discussion and explain what is our product and how they can help them to protect their organizations.
And can you tell me what is Flare? Flare. What is Flare?
Well, first and foremost, it's a startup from Montreal, Quebec, where I'm from. So super proud of that. It's actually one of the founders was one of my students. I was a university teacher for 13 years, and now he started his company. But I got hired a year ago from there. Flare is doing what we call continuous threat exposure monitoring. What that means is that we're looking on places like the dark web, Telegram, on Tor. So on the places where hackers, and we call those threat actors, the place where the bad guys are sharing information. So we monitor what is happening there so that when a company, let's say, they got a password leak for one of their employees, that way they're aware that this employee's information got leaked, and now they can react to that. And they can, for example, reset their password, preventing any damage. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
Very interesting. So, and how do I get on the dark web exactly? Where is this dark web? Is it, how do I get there?
Okay, so the dark web is a parallel version of the internet that we know of. It runs, of course, on the same pipes, on the same networks, but it uses a different protocol. So for that, you need to use a browser named Tor for the Onion router. So thanks to Tor now, you can connect to websites, which now the way that Tor works is that this is a network where you're not connected directly with the server you want to contact. You connect through a series of networks nodes. So the end result is that your connection is pretty much anonymized. And this is the reason why a lot of illicit marketplaces are on Tor. So people will acquire illicit goods such as drugs, weapons, or illicit services as well. So, of course, I don't recommend people to do this.
That is not the purpose of this podcast. But if I want to get illicit drugs or weapons, then this is how I go about doing it. Yeah. Okay, and so what you're describing is let's say I'm a criminal. I mean, and maybe I am. Like, who knows? You and I have just met. You don't know my backstory. So let's say I'm a criminal, and for some reason I need to steal someone's identity so that I can be buying drugs and weapons and other bad stuff. And so I go and I figure out how to do it, and I'm doing it through this, the dark web. I'm using Tor and all the rest of it. What your company specializes in is keeping an eye on that so that when my name is being passed around with my credentials on the dark web, you can say, oh, wait a minute, this is a problem. We better take some action. Am I getting the gist of it?
Yeah, pretty much. Especially for us, we are a service that help organizations for their own cybersecurity posture. So we help protect their network. We help prevent any damage for being done. But we're also, cases where information is being shared that you don't want. Let's say a patent has been shared. You have some contracts, some confidential data that you were sharing with a partner company, but they got hit by ransomware. So they got an attack where all their files got exposed over the internet. So now you know that, oh, my stuff has been leaked. So cybersecurity is a very large field. And what we do is that we help organizations take control of the things that are outside of their control.
Gotcha. Okay. And see, I live in a simple world, and my simple world is, well, so long as my password is good, then I'm good and everything's fine. What I would like you to tell me today, and the whole point of this podcast, is what can I do as a human? I'm not a big organization. I don't know what the dark web is. I'm just a guy. Okay. I am just a guy. So what are the things that as a regular guy, I should be doing to protect myself? And obviously there's, I'm sure 100 things, and we could talk for 4 hours on this, but maybe you could start by giving me an example of a common, cybersecurity threat or attack or something that is directly going after an individual. And of course, the name of this podcast is Debt Free in 30. We talk about money and debt.
Yep.
So anything to do with stuff in the financial realm is what I'm most interested in. So can you give me an example of a problem that I should be aware of? And then we can spend most of the show talking about solutions.
Yes, absolutely. So, okay. Let me explain you one very simple situation. You have your work computer where you work for your company, you do your 9 to 5. And of course, you have many passwords. So what you do simply is that you do save in my browser. So that way you don't have to type it again. Now, you're at home. And now you're using another computer, your personal PC at home, and where you're sharing the same browser profile. So your Google Chrome that you're using at home also has the passwords stored from your work computer on them. So next thing, let's say that you have your kid. Of course, the audience is debt-free under 30, but let's say that you have some kids. They want to play a video game, something like Roblox, where now they get advertisements saying, hey, click here and you'll get free stuff. So, okay, your kid now will execute a piece of software that what it does is that it copies all your saved passwords. So you have in there your personal passwords, but also your work passwords. So because of your kid just downloading something, or you just did something like execute a piece of software that you don't know, like attached to an email. What happens now is that all the passwords that were saved in your browser got sent to the bad guys. Now, these bad guys will do a post on the dark web saying, hey, I got these credentials. The next step is that there's a hacker somewhere that will see that and say, okay, I see the profile for, Doug. I can see their banking information. I can see their PayPal account. I can see their crypto wallet. I can see all their personal information. And now they could say, yeah, okay, I'll use that. I'll log in on the behalf of that person because now I have their username and password. I'm logging in and now I can start doing damage. But these are like low level. The high level will be, Doug that works for company X, now I have their credentials. I'll log in there. I'll get inside their network, their intranet or whatever, their employee network. I will start installing software within the company network, and I will start getting data out of it to eventually shut down the entire company network. And I will ask for a ransom, asking, pay me $1 million if you want to get access to your network, or otherwise I will share all the data that got exfiltrated from your network. I will share that to the entire world. This all started because your kid executed a piece of software on your home PC. So
what my kid did was opened a door to my personal computer, and then they were able to use that door to open a door to the work. And once you're in the work, well, then you can, like you say, do a huge amount of damage. And we're blaming my kids here for all this. And in my case, both of my kids are, computer experts, but it's more likely I'd be the stupid one clicking on something because I think, that looks legit. That's got must be from my own company or something. And you click on it and off you go. So, okay, I fully understand. And I think everyone listening to this can understand what can happen. You open a door, people go through it. That's kind of how it is. The reason I don't leave a $20 bill sitting on the table is because someone could take it. What I do is I put it in my wallet, I put it in the bank, I hide it away. So what are the practical things then that I can do to protect myself? And let's start with the obvious one, which is passwords. So, and there's two elements to that. There's the password itself and then where you're storing it. So if I'm storing it on my browser and anybody can get to my browser, then that does not sound particularly effective to me. Let's start with the more obvious thing then. If I'm picking a password, how do you recommend, what's the process there? How do you think about that?
So, okay. The first thing, of course, is to take a password that will be pretty much impossible to guess. Like putting the name of your kid, putting your own name, your mother's name, and adding 1, 2, 3, that doesn't cut it. This is not secure at all. What you need to do is to make sure that your password would be pretty much impossible to guess. And 1, 2, 3 is not enough. The password should be long enough so that it will be very complicated for someone to reach there. Because how it works with password is that you can set up a system that will test credentials, and they will like rotate through characters and try different combinations. They won't do them all in the same second because your account will be locked. What they do is that from time to time, they will ping and will try one combination until they manage to get one that works. So take complicated passwords. Don't reuse your password. So yes, I found like a 25 characters long password. Nobody will ever guess it. The problem is that it's possible that one of the places where you're using passwords get breached. And now the passwords that were saved there are now open in the wild. And even if you have the most complicated password in the world, it's possible that someone could get access to it. And now, let's say that you have the same password for your bank account, then your Facebook account, then you're done. So, complicated passwords, have them and don't reuse them.
Okay, so let's talk about, you said long enough.
Yep.
So I know if you go on Microsoft's website, they think 8 characters is a minimum, but 20 would be better.
Yeah.
And now let's talk about philosophy here. I know this isn't a philosophy podcast, but my philosophy is the best password is long. It's hard to guess, which is what you just said, but it's also easy to remember because obviously I have to type it in. That's the whole point. So to me, the best password would be 4 random words put together. And as a human being, I cannot come up with random words because what I would do is I'd sit here and go, okay, I'm in my podcast studio. So camera, monitor, Eric, keyboard. Those are 4 those aren't really that random. But you can go to a random password generator or something like that, come up with 4 random words. And do you agree that that's hard to guess because they're long and 4 random words? Or do you say, no, you got to do more than that. You got to put an exclamation mark and a question mark and a capital and what's your theory on that?
Yeah, I think having 4 words that seem to be disjointed, like the chances of someone guessing those 4 words are pretty much impossible. So I would say this is already good. Special characters will make it even better. But in today's world, we call that a passphrase, like it's a sentence of words, a sequence of words. And you can put an exclamation mark if you want, or any special characters. This will help, of course, to make that password pretty much impossible to guess. But of course, if it's impossible to guess, you need to make sure that you remember this password yourself.
Because if it's the password that I use to log into my computer in the morning, I'm going to do it every single day. So it has to be easy enough that I can type it in and remember it, but not so hard that I can't. And so I always worry that if I've got capitals and question marks and this and that, the chances of me screwing it up are that much greater. So to me, you got to balance those two. A passphrase seems like the best way to go. Like you say, 4 disjointed words, easy to remember. I can have a picture of the words in my head, and I assume I'm never going to write that password down.
Yeah.
Okay, now let's go to the next step on this then. So that's my main password that gets me into my computer. But you already said don't reuse the password, so I'm not going to use the same password at my bank, because if somebody hacks my bank or my Facebook account or my MySpace account or whatever the kids are using these days, then I've blown it. I've lost the whole thing. So what you are recommending then is each site I go to should have a different password. That's what don't reuse means. Yep. And so are you a believer in a password manager, something like 1Password, LastPass, something like that? And why do you believe in that?
I'm a strong believer in having a password manager. I could, like today, take my phone and show you my password. Yeah, of course, it's recorded. People would see it.
Yes, they will. Yes, we don't want to do that. Yeah.
I could show you my bank password. I have no clue what it is because it's like long like this. It's a series of characters. There's not a single word in it. It's very complicated. But I couldn't remember a series of 26 random characters. So this is why a password generator and a password manager is the way to go. So thanks to that, you have a vault of passwords that are stored in there. All that you need to know is 1Password. So this is why for me, I have 2 main passwords that I need to remember: how to log in on my computer and how to access my vault. And there are free options that are available. Bitwarden, for example, is an open source solution. So that's the beauty of open source, is that there's a lot of eyes on it. There's a lot of scrutiny from the user base. So it's, if they do something wrong, then the user base can fix it. So this is why I strongly recommend open source solutions. And now, thanks to that, what you need to do is that you provide your vault password. And instead of typing the passwords, you can just copy them from there and put it in there. But I already said something important. I said you copy the password. Everything that goes in your clipboard, if your computer is infected, can be read, can be sent. So anytime you copy something, or even anytime you type a key on your keyboard, you could have what is called a key logger that will record every keystroke that you do on your keyboard. And if that's the case, someone could get your very complicated password. So this is why passwords are good, but protecting your own device is also extremely important. And now, of course,
and what you're saying, I totally agree with that. And like I said, I use a password manager on my computer, and it's exactly the way you describe it. I've got a password to log into my computer, and then I've got a password, which is really a passphrase, to get into my password manager. I, like you, have no clue what my banking password is. I don't know. I don't know if I've ever seen it or not. And I believe when I set it up, I said to the machine, okay, make up a password for me. And it goes and puts it in the bank, and it's there. And when I'm on my phone, I have the same password manager on my phone. So same thing, I authenticate on my phone and it will do it. So I'm doing good. The only thing I'm not using is using an open source one. So Bitwarden, I'm gonna check that out. But okay, so these are very tangible things. And I know the objection that everybody has is, but it's too hard. And what you're saying is, well, not really, because once you're in, the password manager does everything for you.
Yeah. It's pretty simple. Of course, it can take some time. You need to set it up properly. You also need to change your habits. So this is just understanding how it works. And if for someone, if this is way too complicated, good old notebook with written passwords, this is fine also. Because yes, if someone gets inside your house and have access to your password, then you're done. But it's also okay. Like, it's better to have a written password somewhere than an easy to guess password. So yes, I don't recommend people to write their passwords, but like, we have so many passwords to manage in our lives. It can be complicated. And same thing also. Like I had this conversation recently. What happens when I die? Like your password, you should give access to your vault, so that way, if when you die, just include it in your will. Someone will be able to log in and get access to your list of password. And I'll go, okay, yes. Like for me, I've been working for many years. I have investments in so many places. I have like retirement fund from when I was working, let's say at Bell, and all these things. My entire online footprint is something very complicated to trace back. When we had piles of papers back then, it was easy. Like, yeah, this is the file. Just open that file cabinet and you get all my stuff. Now everything is online, so this is why it's important to have a way to easily provide that to your people,
all of your heirs who are taking over. So, okay, so since we're planning for my death here, with a password manager, you can give someone else access to that manager, can you?
Yeah.
And is it possible, I don't know if Bitwarden does this, but to have in effect, a time lock on it or something that, hey, if I haven't accessed it for 3 months, then somebody else can get into it, because that probably means I am dead. Because you gotta trust one person because if I say to my kid, here you go, here's the password to my password manager, well, I guess my kid can take all my money then if they want. Now, both of my kids, I'm pretty sure they could hack into my computer in about 12 seconds, so I'm not too worried about that. But how would you go about passing it on to your heirs? Is it as simple as, well, I put the password in my will?
Yeah. You can absolutely do that, because your will not be public. They will need to go see the notary to have access to that. So it's pretty complicated. You don't open a will at will on.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, so the point you're making, I was quite shocked when you said you can actually write your passwords down, but your point is, if your password is saved on a Word document on your computer and someone hacks your computer, then they've got everything. It is impossible to hack a notebook unless someone physically gets into your house. It's not on the internet. That's the whole point. So it is better to have a password manager that's protected, because then you can access it from your phone, from your office, from your house, whatever. But if you don't want to go to that level, well, you write them down and you put them someplace in your house that, not on your desk on a Post-it note probably, but in a safe or tucked away, and you're better off. Okay, so that's a very interesting way of looking at it. Now, let's go back to the main question of the day, which is, what do I need to do to protect myself from, cybersecurity issues that cause financial difficulties? So I think we've talked about passwords as being a huge thing, and that's obviously the front door, so you want to keep that locked. What other practical advice do you have for people in that scenario?
Yeah, there's one very important thing, is that hackers and these people, scammers, they want to work on urgency. They want you to feel stress. They want you to feel that, oh, I need to do something quick because my account will be locked. I will lose my money, or someone in my family will get an issue. The thing is that we humans, when we are under stress, our defense barriers lower down, because this is how we work. It's that, oh, okay, yes, someone that someone that I like, something that is important to me is at risk. I need to do something. So this is why it's always important to keep in mind that companies will not ask for your password. They will not ask you to install a piece of software. That your loved ones, if they are in trouble, they will allow you to call them back. It's like when there's something like this where stress level was at 0 and suddenly it's at 100, something fishy can be going on. So phishing, once again, I love puns, by the way. So phishing is the act of trying to lure someone into doing something that they shouldn't. Like running a piece of software on their computer, opening a web page that they shouldn't, opening an Excel worksheet with macros that will run stuff on their computer. All these things, the goal is to lure you into doing it. And this is why these phishing campaigns are like, they target millions of people and they hope to have one person that is dumb enough to do it. Well, sometimes it's very believable. What they will do can be pretty good, and it's difficult to make the distinction between like something legitimate and something that is for fraud. So always keep a clear mind, and when something happens, take a step back and ask yourself, is this something real? Like, your bank is saying that your account has been locked and that you need to click on this, otherwise your funds will be liquidated, or like something like this. Why would a bank do this? And when you have doubts, call back. Take the phone. I know, like for millennials like me, we hate taking the phone, but do it. Take the phone and call that person on their public, either if it's a company, on their public phone number, or if it's from someone, because of course AI fraud, I don't think we'll have the time to go into that world, but yeah, contact the person and ask, okay, was that really you? Because the bank should be aware if there's something on your account that is locked, they should be aware. So always be cautious.
Yeah, and when you say phishing, you're talking about spelled with a PH.
Yeah, PH, yes, of course.
But it is phishing, just like you do with a fish, except it's computer phishing. And yeah, I guess the big advice there is don't click on anything. Like, unless you're absolutely positive, don't click on anything. And I agree with you. An even bigger scam would be CRA.
Oh, yes, of course.
And it's, we got to send you your carbon credit tax rebate thingy, but we don't have your banking information. Can you enter it here? Yeah. Well, okay, that's a pretty obvious one. Again, you pick up the phone, you call CRA and say, here, I'll give you my banking information. I'll submit it through your portal, but I will log in myself. I'm not going to follow a link. And let's face it, these guys are really sophisticated. I get emails all the time from myself, which I think is impossible because I would have known, and it looks just a little bit different. And if you're not paying attention, it's easy to click, and then boom, you're toast. So okay, we've talked about two really practical things. Then we've talked about password management, and we've talked about phishing. Don't click on stuff. Give me one more practical thing or piece of advice that you would be giving people to either protect themselves or something that they should be aware of, a scam they should be aware of, something that our viewers should know.
So make sure that your computer and your software that is running on it is up to date. So when you get a pop-up saying, for example, please install the new version, most of the time the software new version is associated with security, because software vulnerabilities are found all the time. And these vulnerabilities can allow an attacker to get access to your environment. If you patch your system, you update your Chrome browser. Like when it says that Chrome needs to be updated, do it. If you're still on the Windows software OS from like many years ago, update it, because all of these software that is on your computer can be a liability and can pose a risk to your entire life. So make sure that everything is updated, including your router. If you're still using the same router from like 20 years ago, odds are good that it's running on outdated software. So you can log into your router interface and make sure to apply updates to it. That can take time, but it is something critical to do, because this is your bastion. If your computer is not up to date, then anything there goes. So this is why all these tips I've given can be important. But the moment that you run a piece of software that is that has a vulnerability and can install something bad on your computer named malware, then everything goes. Now, threat actors can do whatever they want. Even if you have the most complicated password in the world, they will get it right away. So protect your computer. Make sure to enable your Windows Defender, for example, which is by default. It's on the computer. Make sure that you have your security settings on and keep your software up to date.
I think that's all great advice. I mean, when you buy a new house, the first thing you should do is change the lock.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't matter everything else. If somebody else still has the key, they can get in. And you got to think of the computer stuff in the same way. Obviously, it's more complicated. And what you probably need to do is get some 15-year-old kid to help you, because they tend to be much better at this than someone my age. But even something like your router, it's like, okay, it's not that hard to do. I mean, the address is always the same, right? It's 192.168.1. Whatever. But if you've never done it, you don't want to be going in and disabling your internet access and all the rest of it. So finding someone who can help you with that is certainly not a bad idea. So, well, that's all great advice, and we could talk for another 4 hours, but unfortunately, time is our enemy here. So that is great advice. Is there anything else you would like to leave our listeners with? Is there any way they control you? Are you on Twitter or anywhere else that they can keep an eye on? We'll put a link in the show notes to your company. I believe it's flare.io is the link.
Yes.
Yeah. And so anybody who's listening, who's, in a business environment is going, I never thought about someone trying to steal our patents or our communication between companies or anything like that, then I will point them in that direction. Are there any final words you would like to leave people with? Yes.
Well, you could think that everything I said was all like doom and gloom, but it's not too bad. There's no one that is actively looking to be against you. So keep a cool head, be informed, be aware of what is happening. And also I would say, well, it's same thing with your finances. You could either place your money somewhere and just, ignore it. And you don't need to do active training, just like you don't need to do active trading, or you don't need to do active cybersecurity at every minute of your life. It's okay to take a step back and let things there, but don't abandon it. Also, don't leave everything to a company to say, yes, my cybersecurity, take care of everything. Keep yourself involved in that process. And I think it's going fine. And if people want to contact me, I have a pretty low presence, like X, Twitter. You will never see me on that. But I have a LinkedIn profile. So Eric Boivin, you can look me on there. And look on flare.io for organizations that want to take care about that increasing amount of damage that can be done from a simple incident that comes from the stuff we talked today. We can definitely help for that. And we're a startup from Montreal, so a good success in this very competitive industry. So, it's pretty cool.
Fantastic. I will put links to all of that in the show notes. And I like your analogy. I mean, you don't have to be a day trader and trading your stocks every single day, but you should have a vague clue what's happening with your ETFs or mutual funds or whatever. I think, nutrition is another one. You don't have to count your calories every single day, but you should probably have some clue what you're eating. And I think cybersecurity falls into the same category. You should have an understanding of what best practices are, follow those. But I agree, don't obsess over it every single day. Eric Boivin, thanks for being here today.
Thank you.
My English pronunciation is different than your French pronunciation, but
it's impossible to pronounce in English.
There you go. Yeah, it's like my last name. It's only one syllable, and nobody can get that right either. So great. Thank you very much for being here. As I said, I'll put links in the show notes to everything we talked about today, including a link to Flare, which is Eric's company. And a reminder for anybody who's watching, if you haven't watched it yet, our latest documentary is now exclusively on YouTube. There's no audio version. You have to go to YouTube to see it. It's called Debt-Sized: How Our Reliance on Credit Leads to Price Inflation. It's getting rave reviews, so check it out on the Debt Free in 30 YouTube channel. That is our show for today. Until next week, thanks for listening. I'm Doug Hoyes. That was Debt Free in 30.